make sure I press record because I forgot one time. Now I
Yeah,
have
I
to
got you.
every
No
time.
worries. I gotta redo the interview twice. Yeah.
It's happened. It's
Yeah, dude, I'm there for it if that happens. So
I appreciate it. All right,
no
I'm
worries.
here today with Otto, and he's going to start by telling you a little bit about himself and how he started getting into music. And yeah,
What's good? What's good? Yeah. You want me to jump right into it?
yeah, just jump right in.
IG. I mean, I started music when I was man, I've always been like into music. I've always liked listening to music. Um Early 2000s, like when I was in my late elementary school era, kind of like grade 4 and 5 was when I really started like listening to like hip hop, and the Black Eyed Peas were probably like the first hip hop group I really listened to. That was when they came out with their Elefunk album. And I remember just like my stepdad at the time was like super strict and didn't want me listening to like any music saying like the N word and stuff and like swearing and like shit like that. And he'd always be like, you need to listen to real artists like U2 and like the Bee Gees and stuff like that. And I was like, bro, I'm in grade 4. I'm like, all the kids in school are listening to this like Flow Rida and things like that, right? So I eventually, when my mom and my stepdad split, I was like mostly just on my own with my mom and my sister, and that's when I really started getting like heavy into music. And when the first Guitar Hero came out, this is kind of when I first was involved in music myself, because I was like playing this Guitar Hero and I was loving it. So then my mom bought me my first electric guitar when I was like in grade 6. So I would have been like 11 years old or something like that. And so picked up a guitar when I was 11. That was 15 years ago. That's gross to say. But yeah, I picked up my first guitar when I was 11. I've been playing ever since. And then I started getting into kind of like the hip hop rap scene when I was 15, 16 years old. And I was really listening to a lot of like Macklemore, Eminem, obviously, Biggie Smalls. Tupac was my absolute favorite at the time. Wu Tang Clan. I was like skateboarding and snowboarding a lot, and I was put on Wu Tang, and it'd always be on like one of our friends' Bluetooth speakers or something like that. And then my homie's older brother, my homie Malcolm's older brother Dane Finesse, he had a rap group called the Dead Rhymers, and I really looked up to them. And he kind of heard me freestyling one day at like my buddy Malcolm's party, and he's like, "Bro, you can like actually rap." And I'm like, I'm in like grade 8 or 9, hearing this from like my homie's older brother, and I'm like, "Damn, really? Like, you think I can rap and stuff like that?" So he would he'd eventually invite me over, and he'd kind of coach me, and he'd really teach me like how to flow. And I used to have all like these little kid rap rhymes and raps, and he'd be like, "Nah, man, like you gotta like say some like relatable shit. You can't be talking about like vodka ice and stuff, bro. You're like 13 years old." And so he really kind of coached me through that. And then when I was kind of in my late high school era, I was like 16, 17, I started like really doing shows and stuff like that, like live performing. And I was really involved in kind of like I don't know if you're super familiar with like Vancouver's hip hop scene, but we have like a couple groups that are basically the biggest, I'd say, like straight hip hop groups, Stomp Down Killers and the Battle Axe Warriors. And that's like with you probably have heard of Mercules before.
Yeah.
That's kind of where he stemmed from. And the Ripper, and then Mad Child prevailed, Neff, and Rob the Viking were all on the Battle Axe side. And so I was really involved in that when I was younger. And then eventually, when I was just finished graduating high school, about a year out, I moved out with like a group of producers who all went to like music school, and they really like had the theory thing down, and they were doing audio engineering and also producing and making their own music. So they kind of coached me and taught me how to produce my own stuff. So then since then, I'm like since moved out with my girl, I've been producing and like writing and mixing and like making all my own music, mostly on my own. And obviously, I'm trying to get some collabs in, but I really kind of took a break from putting stuff out to like work on my sound. So now this year feels like a big year for me because I really feel like I'm finally like letting go of some of my work and putting it out. And that's kind of where I'm at now, man.
Wow, that's awesome. That's pretty cool
Yeah,
transition. So you've been at it for a while and you've kind of gotten to watch yourself change over the years and evolve into like where you're at now.
definitely.
Yeah.
It's weird, bro. Like I like a lot of my stuff is I have a lot of stuff that's private online, or at least like I made it private so I can go back and just like reminisce every once in a while. And it's really it's nostalgic going back, but I definitely I definitely would say I've evolved a lot as an artist and I've grown a lot and matured, and like I'm really happy with where I'm at now.
Yeah, I think that's important to hold on to. Like even if it's not, even if you don't like leave it out and you like you said, you put it on private, I think it's good to
Yeah,
always have that because it's really easy when you're in any field, especially like an art, like a musician, it's really easy to look at people ahead of you and say like, oh, I'm not there yet, or oh, I haven't made this leap yet. But when you can look at where
100%.
you come from and where you started and you can see that progress, I think it makes it
I
cool.
agree totally. Definitely. I think it also it's like a good progress marker too, because like obviously you're always improving and you're gaining knowledge, and you're even just in the quality of sound and everything that you kind of take in, you can go back and just be like, wow, I've gotten so much better. And it's a big confidence booster as well. And like for myself personally, I've had a lot of issues with holding on to music for like too long, because I always find that every time I progress and I have things on the back burner that are ready to release, I'm like, damn, all my new shit's so much better. Like, why would I release this old stuff? But I feel like it's important to find the line in between there of like putting content out, because I feel like you can get trapped in that kind of perfectionist mindset. And like, it works for some artists, but for how diluted everything in the industry is now, I feel like I've really learned that people just want more and more and more. They just want new music constantly. And if you kind of fall into that trap, you're going to lose a lot of opportunity and like a lot of the ability to gain new fans and have people having their eyes on your music as well.
Yeah, I think that's like you said, I think it's a difficult trap to fall into no matter what stage you're at. I think about, I know he's pretty controversial now, but like when Kanye put out The Life of Pablo and he like
Yeah.
would he'd like put it out and then he'd like take it back and he'd come out with like a new version of a bunch
Yeah.
of songs. And I think that's like it just shows you that
100%.
no matter what level you get to, because at that point he was kind of like, I mean, I don't know if you'd say he's on the top, but he was like he's definitely like in the top
Oh, bro, he's
conversation at
such
that point.
a
Like,
influential artist.
and,
Yeah.
and he's still at that point was like, I got to do more on this. Oh, I got to do more on that. And it's like,
Yep.
I don't think that ever goes away when you care that much about your craft and what you do. You're always going to feel like, oh, I could have done this, you know?
I agree, bro. 100%. Same with who was it? I can't remember. It'll come to me. It'll come to me.
Yeah. I think it's tough because it's finding that balance of like critiquing yourself, but also accepting some of it at the same time and just being like, okay, this is
Yeah,
what I had at this point.
I feel like there's a point where it's just like I feel like it's the same as like if you're playing a sport, like if you're playing ball, and let's say you're averaging like you average like 20 points a game and like 5 rebounds and like 2 assists. It's like sometimes you're gonna hit that average, and that's like what you have to do. And then sometimes you'll be at your peak and you'll go for like 30, 10, and 10. But you have to be comfortable with hitting that average and just like putting things out at your average. And I think like that's a big part of growth. And then people will notice you when you're at your peak. And that's when people start having favorites of yourself. They'll be like, damn, he was at his peak, like doing this and this. And then that's like where you really grow and like gain kind of like a cult following, even.
Mhm. Yeah. So it sounds like you've been working on your sound for over the last year now. What are some things that you kind of picked apart as far as from like a mix and mastering producing standpoint over the last year?
I think I've really figured out, and as funny as it sounds, it's kind of like cheating, but I've really found that I narrowed in a vocal chain that I really liked. So
Mhm.
basically, just like a yeah, like the vocal chain is just like a series of like effects and compression and like everything to kind of just make your voice sound how you want it. And I basically just reuse that vocal chain throughout almost all the music I make right now, at least with the kind of theme that I'm going with at the moment, which we're kind of coming into summer and I have a lot of more summery music that's like going to be triggered for release for the rest of this year. So I've kind of found a chain and like a sound and style that I just kind of recycle, and it saves me so much time. And when I'm recording, it's so much easier just to throw the chain on and then just like freestyle and have it just sound exactly how I want in the moment. I think it kind of speeds up production, and I've also found that mixes don't have to actually be perfect, especially as an artist that's just coming up. Like you don't need to be spending 6 hours on your mix if you kind of have good fundamentals and like a good basis on like what sounds good. Um, I feel like all that extra kind of twang and like twinkle is good for when you're ready to release kind of like your debut album or something really big like that, or
Mhm.
you cop a feature from like a really big artist. You want everything absolutely perfect. But when it's building and things like that, just like I said before, you being at this like average level of like good work ethic and growth, I think is the most important thing right now. And I think that's what I've realized is just continuing your growth and allowing yourself to be imperfect, even in your production, I think is just as important as being at your peak.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's spot on. As far as like that average, I think something that kind of comes from that is like consistency. What are some of the ways that you like keep yourself consistent when it's not always the easiest to, maybe even though you love music, sometimes it's like tough to,
Yeah.
work on it type stuff, I guess.
I guess I would say starting off with an achievable goal that you can like nail every single time. An example of that is I decided that every week, no matter what, I'm gonna pick a day and spend an hour on something to do with music that day, whether that's working on my theory, uh, trying to mix something, trying to find a new artist that I want to work with, recording new music. If I like spend 1 hour, like this is an old goal that I'm like I've changed a lot over the years, but before it was like I found that I was like really unmotivated and like I didn't feel like working with anybody. I didn't even really feel like making music for a bit. So I was like, I got to change something. So I did 1 hour a week. And then that normally turned into me really enjoying what I was doing for that hour. And it would turn into 3 hours because I wouldn't even realize that I'd be going for that long. And now it's changed. Now I'm like, I got to give it 3 days a week, at least an hour. And that's always just turned into like 4 or 5 days a week for like 2 to 3 hours. But I think the most important thing is, yeah, setting achievable goals that you can absolutely nail and then just like slowly building those up. Um, yeah, basically just working on your form as an artist. I think that's super important.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to make big changes at one time. So I kind of like what you're saying about like smarting, it's not smarting, starting off with a small chunk of time and
Yeah,
taking that and being like, okay, something that's like not the big change. I think that's when it can
yeah,
be overwhelming. If you go in and you're like, I want to change everything this week and you set too high of
yeah, bro. With how life is structured too, with just like when you become an adult, especially like for any kids listening right now, like if you're living at home and your parents are feeding you and you're able to work on your shit and your craft, like do that as much as possible because if you're at a point in your life where you're relying on yourself mostly, um, setting those goals are tough. So I think that it's important for anybody that doesn't think they have time to start with those small goals. And I think you'll be surprised at what you can accomplish just even just like if you have 30 minutes a day or like 30 minutes a week. just to work on something, I think you'll feel a lot better and it'll be so much easier for you to build off of that rather than being like, I gotta work on music every day. There's 8 hours after work in a day, and I gotta be working on music for 6 of those hours, and the rest is just like showering and eating and then sleeping. It's like it's impossible to achieve that and like stay mentally healthy and just happy basically.
Yeah, yeah, unless you have Gary Vee's timeline.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, right?
Every 15 minutes, new meeting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. But like I think but you've probably built yourself into a position where you've like worked on your time management and your ability to kind of achieve what you need to, right?
Yeah,
And it's I would say it's like making like a huge change off the bat. It's so hard to get into a new habit if you just it's like going cold turkey off whatever you're doing before, you know?
yeah. It's kind of funny because when I was growing up, everyone thought of me as like the most spontaneous person. Like when I think I was 17. I like randomly
Yeah.
decided on Thursday that I was gonna drive from Minnesota to New York to go see Eminem on Sunday. And like
Yeah,
I went and saw the concert, and I would do stuff like
that's
that all
sick.
the time. And then now as
That's
an
important
adult,
too, man.
yeah, but now as an adult, I'm like, all right, I want to know what I'm doing this hour and this hour and this hour.
Yeah. No, structure is really good. I think like I think if you can be disciplined, that's super important. I think that staying disciplined is a really good way to progress yourself. And I think it's really just good for you as a human in general, like having structure and discipline. And when I say like setting goals, I don't mean like I'm not saying you're not disciplined to anybody. I'm just saying that like you're, when you're trying to build and create something new, it's really hard to set aside that time when you've already got those structures in your life. Like, let's say you have a full time job. Well, you're already committing yourself to being on time every day and putting in enough effort to stay hired, basically, or progress in your work field. So, anything extra, like if you're creating music or you are going to school for something and you're trying to switch careers, it's like setting those small goals to basically move on in whatever other field. It's fine if you start slow. Like you don't have to crack it right off the rip. But if you can crack it and you find that you have much more ability than putting out, then by all means, I think you should crack it. Like you should go for it. But it's just not always what's available for everybody, right?
Right. Yeah, that's not easy to accomplish. And I think another part of that discipline is giving yourself that free time to do something that's mindless and fun. Like I think
Yeah,
it's
I
really
agree.
hard to give 100% on the things that you care about if you don't have those times where you're not giving 100%. You're resting and doing something that's just
Yeah,
not
I
brain
think
dead.
it's totally
You're,
okay.
yeah,
I think, yeah, because at the end of the day, it's like you could go tomorrow, right? So
right.
if you're always stressed out and you're giving your all and you're not taking any time to kind of rest or heal, then you're going to be really burnt out by the time you get to where you're trying to go, right?
Yeah, turns into a night.
Yeah, I agree with that totally.
Yeah. So what are some of the things you got planned? You mentioned some music coming out in the summer that looking the
Yeah, like so I've got a few songs ready. At the end of this month on February 28th, I've got my track Racetrack, and that's dropping at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Um, on the 28th. I'm super stoked for that one. It's a summer vibe, so like up north here, I live in Vancouver, and it's pretty cold right now, so it's something to stay warm with. And then about a month after that, I haven't announced the exact date yet, but I have another song coming out called 18 in Love, and it's kind of fitting the same theme. It's more of like a summer kind of love story vibe, a little bit of like Drake, a little bit of Don Toliver type shit. And then after that, um, I have a couple live performances coming up, but the dates just haven't been confirmed yet. But I'm super stoked for that. And then come summertime, I'm kind of hinting towards a project, some sort of EP dropping hopefully just before August. Yeah, mid July is kind of the dates that I'm looking at right now.
Nice. That's exciting.
Yeah,
So you've been
yeah,
doing live performances for quite some time now, which is kind of, I mean, I think it's advantageous because I think that's a really hard aspect that gets overlooked a lot of times. It's definitely a challenge to write and record and put out music, but it's like a whole nother beast to actually go out in front of people and perform it.
totally. That's probably like live performance is probably one of my favorite aspects though of the whole thing, to be honest. I think because I started so young, I've like grown accustomed to basically like adapting to situations and working with others as well. Like that's a huge thing. Like working with a sometimes you don't always get your DJ that's available for you,
Mhm.
and you have to work with the house DJ or you have to ask someone else's DJ to spin your set. And you've got to really know how to network, know how to swim your way kind of through the industry, and even create opportunities for yourself. Like I'll never forget, there's this one guy from my town called B Dice, and I was really young. It was like I think this is like or it's my second show. I was 16, and Mad Child was he was the Mad Child was the headliner, and I remember there was like a technical difficulty with his USB or like his DJ's laptop or something like that. So they had the mic just on the stand, and the crowd was kind of getting like a little bit upset because it was like 30 minutes past his time to get on stage. And I remember B Dice runs on the stage and the mic was hot and he just starts freestyling on stage. And I was like, damn, that was really cool. So it's just being able to kind of take those opportunities like as an artist. I think live performance is like a huge part of your artistry once you get to a certain point, and like how it's like if you can't perform, it's like how are you going to play festivals and stuff if you blow up and all of a sudden it's like, hey, we want you playing at Rolling Loud, right?
Yeah, and that's where you want to go for people to see you. And like I think going to things like you said, like festivals, that's where you really grow your audience and get new people to find you. And
Yeah,
even if it's not a festival, even if it's opening for somebody, like there's so many people that like go on tour with say like a Russ or whoever, go on
yep,
tour opening for somebody, and then someone's not there to see you, but because they're there to see someone else, they see you.
new
And
discovery, right?
yeah.
That's a huge part of it. I think it's also a way to solidify people's opinions on you if they're already a fan. I think if they're already a fan and then they see you blow them away in a live performance, I think they're like, yeah, like I saw that guy and like he was so good live and blah blah blah. I definitely think that when artists perform well live, they're more well received musically as well.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And I won't name any names from like more
Yeah,
mainstream
no worries.
artists, but
Yeah,
like people that I think like I would like play in the car like max volume and like so good, and then you go see them live and they're flat and you're just like I would
yeah, of
probably never pay to go see them again. Like I'll still listen to them in the car, but I probably
course,
would pay to go see them live. And I think that's like a huge, and I think it's different if it's like an opener, but when it's like a someone who's like already there, you're like, oh, this guy did
definitely.
effort into his performance. And like,
Yeah, it leaves like a bad taste, right? It's like
mhm.
your expectations are just so high for some studio artists, right? And then you go and see them, and you're like, what? It's like unpleasant, right?
Yeah,
It's like seeing your hero, like, and then they just like they don't meet where you thought they were, right?
yeah. You're like, oh, they're not totally perfect, I guess, but they're still.
Yeah, it's like reading a book. It's like reading a book, and then they come out with a movie, and the movie's trash. It's
Yeah,
like, damn, like,
that's the best
but the book's
comparison
always
right
there.
there.
Yeah,
Like reading
no,
the book.
seriously.
Yeah. So what got you at such like a, because I think a lot of people wait so long to get that performance because they're so scared. Do you think it was just like the people you surrounded yourself with at such a young age, with the like the older people that encouraged you? Or
Yeah, I think I definitely think it was. I don't even know, man. Like, cause after my first show, I think I just liked it so much that I was like, oh, I want to keep doing this. This is sick. Like, I love. Um, like for example, in high school, it was like the classic scene where it's like when people heard that I would freestyle, it'd just be like a group would gather and be like, "Yo, freestyle for us. Yo, freestyle for us, bro." And then it's like I would freestyle and people would get hyped and it's like a good feeling. It's like oh, like people are fucking with like what I can do.
Mhm.
And that's only maximized when you get a stage and a mic and there's a bunch of people in the room and it's like I just love I love like having a good time with people, and then when I can achieve that with my music, it's like such a fulfilling feeling. And it's also I just like if I can vibe with anybody that's also vibing to music in general, like it's my favorite thing. So I think that started just from the first opportunity I had, how I felt. Um, I practiced so much before my first live performance too. I was so scared, and then I remember like before getting on stage, I was like rapping to myself in the bathroom, and I was like forgetting my own lyrics and shit. And I was terrified. And then I'll go out there, and I'm pretty sure I nailed it. I might have forgotten a few lyrics, but that'll happen. And even like now, just hitting a live performance, it's easy to forget a couple lyrics, but as long as you're dialed in and you're rehearsing properly and you're really focusing, it's pretty hard to totally forget a song or something like that. I mean, just don't perform trash is probably my best advice.
Yeah, no, I could see that though, because anytime you have that adrenaline pumping, which I'm sure is crazy during a performance, like you
Yeah.
kind of just get like that's where the habit. That's why like practice is so important, is because your habits take over at that point. Whether it's sports, you're going out to play ball, and
Yeah.
everyone's like screaming and stuff. Like you're not really thinking in the moment. You're just doing what you do in practice. Like just like your
Yeah,
brain
it's like your
just
reflex,
deciding.
right?
Yeah.
It's like your reflex or your what do you call it? I can't think of the word right now, but it's like your instinct takes over basically because it's been drilled you've drilled it into you so many times that you get up there and like anything like that's where if you can show your peak, if you can do a little extra, show a little bit more energy, make a little bit more eye contact with people, like that's like where you're gonna shine aside from just performing the song, you know?
Yeah. I think for every career, that is what makes like the best is
Yeah,
you know your job so well that you're not thinking about your job anymore. You're thinking about the connection you're making with the people. Like whether you're
yeah,
working
I
in
agree.
retail, if you're working in medicine, if you're working as a artist, like when you are so good at your job that you're not even thinking about it and it's just a reflex, and then you're just working on the connection with like humans, that's when you
That's where it becomes mastery, right?
yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I would agree with that totally. And I think that that's where you that's where you really realize too like how far you want to go with things too is once you get to the point like once you put your 10,000 hours in or whatever you really realize like damn like I really want like how far can I take this like can I be the greatest at this, can I be like my best version of myself at this, like where it becomes when you're so good at something that or not even good at it, you're just you do it well, like when you're basically versed in something. I think that's where you can also start putting your own personality into it and you can make it yours. It's like anybody can rap a song if you rehearse it 100 times, right? But then is it like, is it you? Is it you? Is it your personality? Are you just trying to sound like someone else? Like it all kind of comes together in the end, and it's up to you to put your own spin on it and show people kind of what you have to offer.
Yeah, I like that. So to round out, I usually end with this rapid fire, or not usually, I just started doing this, but I think it's fun.
Okay.
It's just like a few
Okay,
questions
I like it.
and I just spit it out and you just give me what comes to your mind first.
All right. I'll close my eyes.
Okay. First thing I do when I wake up.
Eat.
My favorite color is
Blue.
favorite food.
Pizza.
I hate when people
Uh oh, I don't really hate anything.
Nothing.
No,
If I could work with any,
cut me off in traffic. Sorry,
oh,
I really don't.
okay.
I really don't like that.
uh, if I could work with anybody,
Ellie Sostre,
if I wasn't making music, I would be
a carpenter.
carpenter. I like that. Is that did you used to do that, or is that just always been something in the back of your mind?
That's my full-time job at the moment, and I'm like blessed enough that I actually really like what I do.
Yeah.
So that's probably I'd probably be full out in that if I wasn't doing music. But music's my first love, my true love.
What got you into carpentry? Was it just
It was a buddy of mine. He was just I was working at White Spot, and he was just like, "Bro, you want to come make some real money?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, let's do it." And ever since I've been doing carpentry since I was 18, so for like 8 years now.
nice? I think
Yeah,
I guess it's kind of like you're still like it's not the same, but you're like making something, it's not a song, but you're still like crafting something.
I think like my current boss right now, he really kind of opened my eyes when he said one time he was like, "Uh, why would you go to work and it's gonna be like the place you're gonna spend like 70% of your life and not try to get better or enjoy what you do?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's so true, man. Like if you're working a job that you really hate, unless it's absolutely the only job you can work, like I feel like everyone can find something that they at least like more than half the time, you know?"
Yeah, if you're gonna spend more than 40 hours somewhere, I think it's important that and you're gonna have good and bad days. So I don't think it's realistic to say
Yeah.
you love work every day, but
But
something,
that's with music too, right? Like
right? Yeah.
I love music, but it's like some days, bro, I'll listen to a mix 40,000 times and end up deleting the song and I'll be really upset. But it doesn't mean I'm just gonna stop making music, right?
No, yeah, and I think that's the difference there though is like you still enjoyed the process of it even though you didn't get to the result. That's looking at like if you
Yes.
enjoy something enough that you can enjoy the process before it gets results, then you found your spot because that's where happiness is going to be. Like if you all you care about is the result of something being good, then you're always gonna, I mean, not always, but more than 50% of the time you're going to be unhappy if all you ever care about is a positive result because it's not going to happen every time.
Yeah. Enjoying the process is really like you can put meaning to life with that, right? It's yeah, if you're enjoying the process, then you can never lose, right? Anything that comes out of the process is just a bonus at that point.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining me. I hope that
Yeah,
at
thank you
some
for
point
having me, man.
I will have the ability to do interviews longer than 40 minutes because Zoom has like these 40-minute restrictions on
Yeah,
it.
man, bro. Zoom dropped the bag on that one, bro.
Yeah.
I remember they opened up the start of COVID. Everyone was getting the free like 3 hour, and then they're like, "Damn, we gotta start charging like $500 a year for this pro version."
Yeah.
Too crazy, man.
Which maybe year two of this, I'll switch over because I like at first when I first started this, it was so hard to even go 40 minutes because I didn't know what I was doing. And now I really enjoy having these conversations and I'm like I always feel like I'm like cutting it a little short and I could go longer.
Yeah, gee, no worries. But short leaves them wanting more, right?
Right.
That's not
Yeah.
always the worst thing.
Well, I'm super excited for racetrack and
Thank
th
you, G.
this episode should come out the Thursday before that. I think is going to be the game plan. So
Beautiful.
yeah, so it'll come out and it kind of I'll like use it to kind of promote the song coming out and everything. And
That's amazing, bro. I appreciate that a lot. I had a
yeah,
lot of fun talking to you and connecting.
yeah, no, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I think it's so cool that you're also into basketball and like it was
Yeah, bro.
chill with you.
I'm a new I'm a new basketball lover. Like I'm from Canada, so